Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Shit's Heart. I'm your host, Amber. And today we are talking about moving to Los Angeles because if y'all are thinking about it, or if you're genuinely just curious, like what it's like to move across the country, I'm here to tell you the ins and outs. Although I'm not necessarily a professional, I've been in LA for about 3 years now. So we're going to kind of go over my personal experience and then also just like the friends that I've made here and kind of like their experience as well. LA is a beast of its own. It really is. We're going to talk about my experience. We're talking about money struggles. We're going to talk about like being a jack of all trades and just like kind of what it takes to come out here, because I know it seems like one thing and I know like y'all aren't stupid. Like I know that. So I have this vivid memory of when I was in Ohio and I was working at an architecture firm and I would listen to podcast episodes of people in LA and I would just dream of when I would get to move out there. And that's kind of what got me through the day for a long time in Ohio, was like thinking about getting to come here. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't romanticizing it in terms of like, oh, all my life's problems will be solved. Although I did think I could run away from some things that unfortunately follow you, but that's a different issue. We're going to talk about like moving to LA from the Midwest specifically, because that's my personal experience. And it is just so different. There's not really a lot of people I know from like my hometown that did it. I have a friend from high school, well, a girl acquaintance, I guess. I don't know. A girl from high school that I know who just moved from New York to LA. So she kind of probably like already has like the big city switch of, you know, New York is also, mind you, I'm from a small town in Ohio. Okay. Like an hour south of Toledo, 2 hours, north of Columbus, and like 3 hours, fucking west of Cleveland. Like all these big cities are far as fuck, like bumfuck nowhere, a bunch of white people. Like that's where I'm from. So, to give y'all some background of like in Ohio, my experience, when I was in college, which I'm 24 now. So my last year of college, I was like, 21, 22. So just 3 years ago, I was living in a house, a 3-bedroom house with 2 other girls. I had the master bedroom. We had a driveway that fit like 4 cars, even though there was only 3 of us. We had a yard, we had a back patio, in-unit laundry, central AC, heat, and I was paying $450 a month. So you can imagine, my surprise when I came to LA, and cheap rent here is what I'm paying now, which is $1,200 a month. And again, I say that is cheap rent. That is not bad. Although when I went to San Diego for 3 months, my junior year of college that summer, I went to San Diego for 3 months with my partner at the time. And I was, you know, when you can split rent in like a room, it's obviously cheaper. But when you're on your own, it's wild. So I'm gonna give y'all some information too, because I feel like this will be helpful if you really are thinking about moving to LA. So obviously the area you live in is gonna like highly determine the price point of what you'll pay. Although I used to live in Pasadena. I don't live there anymore. I'm not going to share where I live right now because that seems like a bad idea. But I used to live in Pasadena. So that's a really nice area if you're familiar with Los Angeles. Very clean, kind of family oriented. There's really not a lot going on for young people. But I was paying about $1,300 a month. And I was in a 2-bedroom with no AC, no heat, which is not as bad as it may sound. Now, again, I don't think it's that bad, actually. I had a little, like, wall unit for my bedroom, and, like, the living room kind of got hot, but, like, I didn't think it was that bad. Whatever. Here's my point. If you're moving to LA and you don't have a bunch of monies and you're gonna, like, figure it out, I love that for you, because I did that too, but you're gonna ride the struggle bus for a little bit. All these comforts and luxuries that I grew up with, you're just not gonna afford it out here. Not right away. So invest in yourself, and you will. But I was raised in a house. I was raised in a 4-bedroom house. 4-bedroom house, 2-bedroom house. What the fuck am I saying? No. I was raised in a 4-bedroom house, 2.5 bath, 2 stories, obviously laundry in the house, a yard, a fucking trampoline in the back. Like, obviously in Bumfuck, Ohio, my parents purchased their home, I don't know what year. They bought it maybe when I was like 6, so probably they've had it like 15 years now. No, I'm not that old. I'm not that old. I'm not 26. Well, I guess 12 or 13 years, something like that. And I believe they purchased it for somewhere around 300,000 or something. That might be inaccurate. It might be worth 300,000 now. I don't know. Either way, where I'm at right now in LA and anywhere near, you're barely going to find anything for less than $800,000. Where I live right now, there's a house for sale across the street from me that is 1.8, I think. I looked on Zillow, 1.8 million. And again, this is a 1-story. It's a ranch. It's probably a 2-bedroom, maybe a 3. It's not that big. It's cute. Don't get wrong. Like, it's a vibe. It has a little yard and like a little garage. It's definitely a cute house. But this is just like the scale of things that I'm seeing is very different. Now, granted, when I was 16, so for reference, this was not quite 10 years ago when I was 16, 8 years ago. I was working minimum wage in an ice cream shop for about, when I was first hired, $7.30 or something like that. And if you're from LA, you're hearing that, you're like, what the fuck? $7 an hour. Yeah, minimum here is like $17 an hour right now. I think in Ohio it's around 10 or 12. I don't know. I should probably look this information up, but my family's still there, so I believe somebody recently told me that. So I want to emphasize that things are different here, yes, but money is different here. Currency is different here. Literally, the value of a dollar is different here. If you're going to be an architect in Ohio, you're going to make less than an architect in LA. And then not at the same rate, right? Because the wages are not going up at the same rate that inflation is. That's a whole nother issue. We're not going to get too much into politics. But your rent's going to be cheaper and all that kind of stuff in Ohio. The purchase price of a car is going to be cheaper. When I was buying a car, actually, I was thinking about going home to buy it and driving it out. Although what it would cost me in a flight, in a hotel for 2 nights to drive the car back probably wouldn't have been worth it. But for the same car, same value, you could get about $2,000 off or something like that with what I was finding. Money is rough out here, you guys. And if you're thinking about moving out here, let me tell you this. You can fucking do it. Do I absolutely believe in you? Yes, I fucking do. Anybody who sets their mind to it can 100% do it. Like, I don't want to hear any of that, oh, how am I going to afford that? Whatever. I'm not going to show my family here for a second, but I'm going to be real with y'all. My parents were like, how are you going to afford anything? How are you going to pay rent? You're just going to go broke. Like, people were like 50-50 when I was telling them I was moving out here, whether they were like excited for me versus were they like, oh, you're just going to go broke and come back. They're assholes. Them. Fuck anybody who's not actively supporting you. Because again, I say, if you really want it, you 100% can have it. But out here, right now I live in a house, actually. But again, I have roommates. But you're not going to have these luxuries that you have back in a small town, whatever the like, you can buy land with acres for the same amount you can get it in LA for like a little shoebox. But I want to touch on this TikTok that I saw. I believe it's Madeline Pendleton. I don't know if you guys follow her TikTok. I really like her. She's really interesting. She's Southern California born and raised, and she talks about like being broke and then kind of like how she decided to get the fuck out of capitalism and like she started her own business. And she has really good content. I just purchased her book. I think it's called I Survived Capitalism, and all I got was this lousy t-shirt. I haven't read it yet, but I'm very excited to. But all that to say, she made a video one time that I saw where she was going in depth about how it's easier to be poor in a big city than it is in a small city. And I think that makes a lot of sense because I want to emphasize a few things about living in LA. I had totaled my car at one point. If you guys were... Well, I was going to say if you guys were following along. I wasn't really active at that point in time. But I totaled my car, and then I was saving up to buy a new one and kind of, anxious to drive again. And it was relatively easy to take the train. And when the train wasn't going to where I needed it to go, it was relatively easy to take the bus. Public transit was pretty easy and accessible here. Certainly not as much as it is in my hometown. Not at all. Not in the slightest. My dad was getting a few surgeries where he couldn't, this is back home in my hometown. He was getting a few surgeries where he couldn't drive back from the hospital or whatever. And so he actually had to call like a local transportation service that would come within an hour window. They would show up. And then with an hour window, they'd drop you off. And that's how he was able to get from the hospital back home. So that was like, that's a moment where I was like, oh, in a big city, it is relatively easy to figure out public transportation if you have to. Now, again, I know obviously there's mixed things about LA's public transportation system and it's not being the most efficient or effective or clean or safe for women. Again, I was living in Pasadena. It's a very safe area. And I only had like 1 or 2 stops till I was getting to work. And everyone was like, you're fine in Pasadena on the train. Don't take it to downtown. Don't go to Union Station. Or at least not at night. And I will say when I was on the train, it was pretty clean. Like it was not nasty. I've been on the New York subway. That's a little nasty. So it was not like that. So I just want to talk a little bit about career, work, making money out here, especially if you're trying to pursue anything in the entertainment industry. You kind of just have to be a jack of all trades. You really do. And not in a bad way. Again, I say, if you come out here with like determination and like a little bit of hustle, and I'm not even saying you have to grind, okay? This is coming from a girl who's 24 years old, who doesn't work more than like 20, 30 hours a week. So you don't need to hustle, but you need to work smarter, not harder. Time is very valuable. My boss, one time as a personal trainer, he's pretty good at what he does. He's very good at sales and good businessman. And I have learned a lot from him in many ways. But he had said to me one time, he was like, it's all about bringing value to people. Why is a personal trainer paid so much? Why does it cost $110 to work out with them for an hour? That's a lot of money. If you're working out with a trainer 3 times a week, that's $1,200 a month. That ain't nothing. That's my rent. Like, that's a lot of money. Obviously, it's a luxury, I do believe, but he was like, it's about bringing value. It's not about working harder. That's the society that we live in. That's capitalism. It's about value, not working harder. So don't work yourself to the bone. And he mentioned, he was like, do I think that people who work at McDonald's don't work hard? No. He was like, I don't think that. He was like, I definitely think they work hard. Fucking on their feet, 8 hours a day. It's hot. It's greasy. It smells bad. Do I think they're working hard? Of course. But he was like, at the end of the day, are they bringing value to people's lives? The answer is no. And so that's why they're not getting paid comparably to another field. And I'm not here to shun anybody who works on McDonald's. I want to be very clear. But I understand what he's saying in terms of like from a business perspective, from trying to be better with your money and your career and hustle and make money. I know a lot of us come out here and we have to take a job we don't necessarily want in the name of, you know, creating money to pay the rent while we can get into what we do want to do. Like I said, especially if you're in entertainment, I have a couple of friends who are PAs, executive assistants, writers, people who are trying to bust into that industry, and you can't do it in a day. And so you have to kind of work a different job to pay the bills while you pursue that. And that's one thing I love about LA. Everyone else out here is a jack of all trades. Everyone out here is a hustler, and nobody out here is going to hear what your hopes and dreams are and be like, that's stupid. Because they would be stupid. The amount of clients that I have who are pursuing these, like, I was going to say niche, not necessarily niche, different avenues, these different paths where there's not a clear set path to becoming a writer. There's not a clear set path to becoming an actor or an actress or a model. Like, you really got to put the work in, and there's no like degree to get and then you are eligible for jobs. It's like, you just go at it. I've even heard like it's not really helpful to go to film school. I've heard it's just helpful to just try to break into the industry. Network is the whole fucking thing. So it's a beast of its own here. I have a friend out here who came out in March, and she had mentioned to me like wanting me to talk about this topic, and I was like, let's fucking do it. Because she was like, money's fucking tight, taking on jobs you don't really like, trying to get the ones that you do like, but you got to pay rent in the meantime. It's like I said, it's a beast of its own, but depending on how bad you want it, it is there for you. I'm telling you, in LA, huge ass fucking economy, there's money to be made. I guarantee you that. but you're gonna have to work for it, and you're gonna have to work smarter, not harder. I do think I've put myself in a pretty good position since I've been out here, especially since I chose a career path that is flexible, offers me a very good schedule for me to pursue other things like this, like do my podcast and make content, as well as I add value to people's lives, and as well as I like what I do too. So I get to train people, work one-on-one with clients. I get to connect to them personally and help them along their fitness journey, achieve their goals, and find balance in their life. As well as when I want to take a vacation, or I want to go home, or I want to travel, or I want to work on something else, I say, hey, I'm going to be out on Friday. And they say, yay, amazing. Take a break. That sounds great. You deserve. Are you taking a trip? Where are you going? And it sucks working in corporate America, where when you say, hey, I'm going to go on vacation, they say, when? Why? For how long? For what? You going to be available? Fuck that, I say. My autonomy and my schedule over my autonomy over my schedule is priceless to me. And so I feel like that has put me in a really good position out here where I have that type of freedom. Now, like I said, almost everything in LA ebbs and flows. Training just the same. There are times where I don't care what kind of fucking trainer you are. I don't care how big you are. It ebbs and it flows and things take a dip. Around the holidays, all the trainers at my gym are a little bit less booked. You can't help that. People are going on vacation, they're seeing their family, and a lot of people are not from LA. So a lot of my clients are going back to New York. They're going to the Midwest. They're going, some of them overseas to go see their family. And that's kind of like the give and take. It's kind of like what you signed up for. We're kind of getting that rush back now in February of like people ready to get on their goals for the new year and that sort of thing. Things are going up for me right now, which I'm ecstatic about and I'm happy about. But for the last couple months, since December through January, especially with the fires, things have been down. I lost some clients due to the fires, and there's no one to point blame at that. You know what I mean? Like, I can't. Of course, if my clients lost their house in the fires, no way training is going to be a priority. I don't blame them at all. But again, this is what I chose with this up and down path, and that is the tale's oldest time in LA. I know there's personal trainers in other states and areas, but if you're any kind of entertainer, actor, production assistant, writer, like you're getting in these projects and the money's coming in, but then once the project's over, it's over. You got to find something else. And, some of my clients don't work for like a month at a time. And then when they get on another project, they're fucking 12 hour days. And it's like, oh, fuck, when are we going to train? So the schedule is like all over the place. But if this is what you love and this is what you want and you're passionate about writing, movies, TV shows, acting, then it's for you. And the reality is it's really, really nice to have that month off. And you're not, you're getting paid so much for those 12-hour days. It does compensate. It does make up for it. You don't need to work during that month. Although, again, LA's expensive and it's really easy to fall into some expensive hobbies too. And so I could see, a lot of people picking up extra streams of income too. I think that's a big thing in LA is trying to have multiple streams of income because nothing is stable. But I want to say this. The stability of a corporate job is a myth. They can fire you whenever they want, and they will. As soon as they don't have the budget for you, they don't have a project for you, you are aging out of the whatever the fuck field, you'll be gone. So that kind of stability is also a myth. So this is why I think it's so important to pick a career field that you feel passionately about and you love, no matter the pay. Because there's ways we can find to monetize whatever the fuck you do. All right. I don't even care what it is. If you have your passion, you have a skill, you have value, we can make some money off of it. And we could find some multiple streams of income for it. I mean, even if you're a fucking teacher, there's teachers who make content. So then they're getting paid from their school to teach. And then they're getting paid to make content from social media. Maybe they're even doing brand deals. Maybe they're even doing tutoring on the side and making extra. Who knows? This is what I'm saying. There's money to be made if there's value that you bring. But again, you're going to have this bit of a hustle culture. But I don't want to say that in a toxic way, because I don't believe in working yourself to the bone. I do believe in working enough to take care of yourself, and I don't want you to struggle about money. So if you're thinking about moving to LA, I think my dog's trying to get in. Hold on, let me let her in. Somebody was banging on the door. I don't want you to come out here and struggle. But the honest reality is you might. But I will say this, you will figure it out. When there's no plan B, when it's your only option, You will figure it out depending on how bad you want it. No, and you're going to have to pick up some, maybe dead end jobs that you don't really want, but there's nothing wrong with working at a coffee shop. There's nothing wrong with picking up a retail job to try to figure your shit out. You're just buying yourself time to get to the real thing. And I'm telling you, once you achieve those goals, like once you get to, my roommate that I just moved in with, her boyfriend's an actor. And I was like, oh, like, what does he do? She's like, oh, he's an actor, blah, blah, blah. He went to school and now he's like auditioning. And so he's a server right now. And he's working that server actor life. And I was like, nothing wrong with that. Because once he gets to the point where he books a role and he's good and he's making the money, nobody's going to give a fuck about you working at a restaurant for a couple years. You're just buying yourself time to be able to work on the other things. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's really about longevity and trusting the process and trusting yourself. I don't really believe that anybody's failed at anything that they really, really were passionate about. I think they just gave up before they were able to succeed. That's my own opinion, My brother would always tell me about one of the actors on It's Always Sunny. Apparently he was acting for like 9 years and like had some things here and there, but like hadn't had his big break. And I guess he had done a few interviews after It's Always Sunny came out, and people were like, how long were you going to go until you gave up? And he was like, always. I was like, I was going to go on forever until I made it. And I think that's really nice because a lot of people, unfortunately, as I moved out here, asked me how long until you give up? How long until you call it quits? Is it 6 years? Is it this? Fuck you. I say to that. I really do. I think if you're telling somebody that who is trying to pursue their dreams, you're an asshole. And I mean that. Like, maybe you're not an asshole, but that's an asshole thing to do. And I think I would really question, why are you asking them this question? And why are you not asking them, oh, what are your hopes? What are your dreams? What are your plans? How are you going to execute this? How are we going to get from point A to point B? Because reality is it might take 9 years. It might take 5 years. It's really hard, with your own confidence and imposter syndrome when you see, like, especially these younger people, who are finding such success at such a young age. It's like easy to feel inferior or behind or like a failure or like, oh, this young ass motherfucker's already found all the success at 18 and I haven't this, I haven't that. It's like, I love those stories that come back to like Oprah was nobody at 21. She was fired from her job and she became Oprah at like 40 or something. It's like, there's no time limit on these things. And if you give up on yourself, you are committing yourself to an eternity of being nothing and nobody and being somebody that you don't really want to be. I'd rather be in the pursuit of who I want to be and be labeled as a failure for the rest of my life than, jump on board with this corporate architect Amber fucking doing shit that I really don't like and I never aligned with. What would the point in that be? But it's fucking hard. I just want to talk about how it's difficult. It's ugly. It's going to be stressful. You're going to stress about money. I've had my moments where I'm paycheck to paycheck in LA. It's not fun. It's not for the weak. But if you really want it, it is for you. I really mean that. Coming to LA from Ohio was obviously culture shock. It was very different out here. Even just like, it has its pros and cons, but I think like fashion is one thing I really like. Nobody cares about what you're wearing. There's this thing in Ohio when it's like, oh, what are you wearing to dinner? And it's like jeans and a cute top. And it's like everyone there is wearing the same thing. In LA, it doesn't matter what you're wearing. Nobody's going to look twice at you. And if they do, they're going to be like, oh my God, I love this outfit. And it's like a fucking runway outfit. It's like people are so extra here in the best way possible. And they're just like very unapologetically themselves. And they really don't condemn you for doing the same, which I love, because that's something I struggle with, is like feeling comfortable in my own skin, wearing whatever I want to. Food is a little bit different out here, and that's one thing I also love. Like, I've tried so many different things coming to LA. Language is something that's a little bit different here. A lot of Spanish speakers, which is really cool. I actually want to learn Spanish. I've been trying, and I have a few friends who speak Spanish, so I've been trying to learn from them, and it's fucking hard. And I took it in high school, so I have like a little bit of a background, but that doesn't get you like, that only gets you so far. And then it's funny because some of my friends never learned formally, or they don't know how to write or like necessarily read Spanish, but they just know how to speak it. Like they know like the, vernacular and like phrases. So it's definitely fun learning from them, because I'm like, wait, what? I thought this was this, but this was the formal term. So that's definitely a different thing out here that I didn't have in Ohio. And I would love to learn the language, because it would just like, open up my circle to be able to communicate with more people and be like more helpful in my job or business or whatever the case may be. And with a few clients, I found like a bit of a language barrier, which is kind of fun. I have one client, she's Korean, and sometimes I feel like we find ourselves like looking at each other and I'm like, what did you say? And then I'm like, what did you say? Or like I can tell when she doesn't know like what I said. And I'm so grateful for it because we just have fun with it and we'll just giggle and then I'll just say it again. And sometimes I have to say it 5 times or even same thing with her. But that's kind of a fun part of my job that I wouldn't have gotten to experience in Ohio. And I think it's like, I don't know, I enjoy that part of my job of being able to not let language be a barrier for us to train together and that kind of stuff. So that was something different in LA as well. Listen, if you come here with money, if you come here with rich parents, you'll be fine. If you don't, I'm right there with you and you will be fine. Like it's going to be really stressful, but depending on how bad you want it, you can figure this out. I promise you that. Everybody can figure their shit out here. You know, there's so many different people from so many walks of life, all different ages, careers, and they're all figuring it out. You know, LA is not a one size fits all. And that's what I love about it. The diversity here is amazing. It's fantastic. And you do belong here if you want to. If you want to figure it out, I promise you, you can. And I would encourage you to look at that, look at the content by Madeline Pendleton. She has some really interesting stuff. I think she grew up in Inglewood or something, and she's talked about like money and resources in Los Angeles. I mean, I just filed my taxes the other day. And there's so much, I mean, obviously it takes so much longer in California than it did when I was in Ohio. Granted, I'm older now, so I have more stuff to put on there. But it asks you, like, there's so many more like grant opportunities or tax break opportunity or this, that, or like rent, whatever, like that kind of opportunities that aren't necessarily in Ohio. The laws are different here. Labor laws are different here. Certain things are stricter. Laws for renters and landlords are different here. So there's way more jurisdiction and government interference, which you may think is good, you may think is bad. I think where we are in late stage capitalism, I think it's good. I'm not saying I like government interference, but I'm saying with where we are at in the world, in the difference between the poor and the rich is just getting bigger. It's kind of the only solution that we really have. So, that's what I've got to say. If you are thinking of moving to LA, I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you. Or just any big city in general. You got this. You really do. And you kind of just have to jump headfirst 2 feet in. I want to preface this. I didn't have a job here when I moved here. I had no job. I had $6,000 to my name when I hopped in that car and drove here, and I didn't know what the fuck I was going to do. But I figured it out. 3 years later, I'm fine. The rent's paid. I have a job. Like, everything is okay. And that applies to any big city if you're moving there. So I had another friend. She moved here, no job. She had like $20K saved. That's even better. I didn't have that. It's good to have a little bit of a padding, but I'm telling you, you got this and you will figure this out. That's all I got for you. I will see you on the next one because this shit is hard.